This is the PR Podcast, a show about how public relations helps you tell your story to the world. We talk with great PR practitioners who have the skills, creativity, and just plain savvy to get their clients noticed. Now here's your host, Jody Fisher.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to the PR Podcast. I'm Jody Fisher. Thanks for joining us. We'll want to give a shout out to Dr. Terry Hernandez, the Public Relations Concentration Coordinator at Mississippi State University, and the students there in her class. She uses the PR Podcast to teach her class and to talk with her students. And we are honored that she does that. And she contacted me a little while back, letting us know she wanted to get some resources and some materials. And so we were working on getting her those things. But I was just so touched and so honored that someone is using the PR Podcast in that educational kind of way to train the PR people of the future. It's one of those do as I say, not as I do kind of situations. You know, I've been at this for 25 years and I'm still trying to figure it out. But hello to everyone there at Mississippi State University. And thank you so much for being loyal listeners. Now let's get on with our show today and introduce our guest. Stephen Chavez is CEO of ChavezPR, an independent, minority-owned public relations and marketing firm in Los Angeles, where he helps clients connect with the diverse demographics that are shaping today's consumer landscape. He's a DEI advocate and a community builder who is also the president of the LA chapter of the Public Relations Society of America. Stephen, welcome to the PR Podcast.
Thank you, Jody. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Let's talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is a big issue. It's an important issue. Let's just level set that, how do you work with DEI and your perspectives on DEI?
Right. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? And there's actually now the idea floating around to add the word belonging. And so I know there are some people out there who, may not fully embrace this DEI concept, and so I think they're going to also be shaken up a little bit with that new word of belonging. But I love it. I was at a PRSA conference in Hawaii last year where they introduced that concept, and I love the meaning behind it. Meaning that not only are we embracing diversity in our way of how we work, in our work practices, in our communications, but also even just thinking about the concept of making sure that everyone feels like they belong there at your place of employment or in the community. And so I think we need to be brave enough, Jody, to have these tough conversations. White privilege is real. Let's put that out there. And particularly in our PR industry, if you look at the makeup, even in Los Angeles, if I look up at the makeup of our PRSA organization, 70% of our membership are white. Yet, I'm also past president of the Hispanic PR Association that has, 200 members in Los Angeles that rivals the amount of people in the PRSA organization. But those folks who are doing Hispanic PR are not part of PRSA. And they're not part of it because they never felt welcomed. There is this idea that, and that's why groups like the Black PR Society, the Hispanic PR Association were formed, because their needs and the resources that they were looking for were not being addressed by PRSA. So as a DEI advocate and now the president of PRSA Los Angeles, it is my mission to change that. I'm excited and proud to say that I have recruited the most diverse boards of directors of the LA chapter's history. And I'm gonna put it out there, and I'm looking forward to having someone from another chapter challenge me. I think it's the most diverse board any chapter in PRSA has ever had. We are just, if you go onto our Instagram, which is at PRSA LA, or onto LinkedIn and go to our page, you will see a graphic image, and it's a beautiful mosaic of all the faces of our board members. And it reflects the real, PR industry that I know of. And so, meaning it represents people from Asian American backgrounds, African American backgrounds, Hispanic, as well as white. And so I love that. And I think what we need to do, Jody, is figure out a way to have those ongoing conversations. I think, and feel free to jump in here, but I think what organizations need to understand is, like, are we creating through our actions equitable experiences? That's one of the things I want to put out there, is that, are we standing up and being courageous when we see inequity? Or no, are we doing all we can to dismantle it? So let's take, for example, I don't know if you've seen it, Jody, but the Harry and Meghan documentary on Netflix. Have you watched it?
I have not seen it. I am I'll just put it this way. I am not impressed with the royals. but go ahead.
Well, they were in their own, right or mind. They stood up and, against the institution, against, quote unquote, the firm. And they left the royal family, and they moved to Canada, were in hiding, and all of it. If you watch the documentary, it comes out the racism, the institutional racism of the firm, of the royal family, and it was incredible to watch and understand just how subtle things can be, that if you don't have that lens of diversity and appreciation for different cultures and ways of life, how quickly it can be damaging for someone who's going into that world. And so what Harry, and even in his new book that's coming out, I think in a week or two, I know he's on the talk show circuit right now. He just did an interview with Anderson Cooper, talking about, he thinks even in his own South, there were traces of bigotry that he didn't really recognize until later, that he looks back and goes, I was actually racist myself. And I think that's courageous.
That is courageous. It's also not surprising, let's be honest, right? If you're raised in a particular cocoon, right, and all of that is around you, it's not surprising that that's the way you think, because when you're growing up, that's what you're programmed to think and believe. The courage, and what you're getting at, is stepping outside of that, recognizing when you come of age, or you can think for yourself, you go, wait a minute, that's not okay.
Yeah.
And then going, and to your point, doing something about it. So yeah, I hear exactly where you're coming from. I am a DEI advocate as well, not in any official sense, just in terms of what I believe and how I live, because I think that diversity, whether it is cultural or that of thought or that of ability or whatever, that it enriches us. It makes us better, because it provides us with multiple opinions, it provides us with multiple perspectives, and it provides us with multiple experiences that we can then layer on top of ours. Your life experience is different from my life experience. I mean, here I am, I'm a white man raised on the East Coast, right? I live on the East Coast. I don't have your experience of someone living of Hispanic background living in LA. And so how do we talk and connect to enrich each other and to expose each other to those experiences and make each of us better?
Yeah, I was lucky. I early on, I was working at an agency, the MSL Group, a national firm here, in our offices in Los Angeles, had a great managing director who really went out of his way to make sure that the staff not only was diverse in terms of our ethnic background, but diverse in socioeconomic upbringing, diverse in LGBTQ, or diversity comes in different shapes and forms. And I think we need to have an open mind, because those were, when we bring together those diverse perspectives and experiences into a brainstorm for a client, when you're coming up with a new campaign, and you are able to recognize that a theme that's a universal theme, let's say it's the love for the family, education, there's some, ambition, there are some themes that we want to embrace in our public relations campaign that can be relevant if, for different markets, whether it be the African American, Asian or Hispanic or LGBTQ communities, that still are part of the overall umbrella theme of the campaign. It's how smart is that team to be able to say, okay, but this is how it's going to play out for the Latino campaign. We need to make sure that we have spokespeople who are, going to resonate, that have influence. And guess what? I just talked with the leader of the civil rights organization called Unidos Us, and they are totally behind this kind of campaign and would be willing to partner with us on it. Having those connections with organizations. But if you didn't have someone on the team that had that perspective, that mindset, none of that would ever be developed. The client would be missing out on a whole, wide audience of prospective consumers or users of their services. And so I think DEI is more of a business imperative and even like doing Hispanic marketing. It is now because of the growth of the Hispanic marketplace, the fact that our spending power, as in terms of the trillions of dollars that we are, spending on consumer products, that alone makes it a business imperative. It's no longer a nice to do. Is if you're going to survive moving forward as a brand, as a company, it's a must-have, right? And so DEI, I feel, is the same way. Younger audiences are asking companies to be more transparent about it, right? They want to know what you're doing. They want to see, it's not about just saying the right things at the right moment. It's actually what's really the right thing to do. It's the action part of it, right?
Well, and that is a really important thing that I wanted to bring up here, and it's a great segue into what we talk about in terms of PR, is translating that DEI. It's important to have because it is equitable, because it is the morally right thing to do. Translating that into it is the business smart thing to do, and how they meet. And the way you're describing it is really eloquent and really important, I think, for people to understand, because we can get in those bubbles of writing our press releases or pitching our experts or servicing our clients, and we can get tunnel vision, or maybe not even consider the audience that we're serving from that perspective.
Right.
And your point, you're missing out.
Yeah, I think DEI needs to be treated the way any other business imperative is, meaning you hire consultants, you build teams, you bring on staff. DEI only gets solved when there's a dedicated approach to doing so with the proper manpower. Unfortunately, what's happening, particularly with PR agencies that I'm seeing, large PR agencies in this country, is that they find that one person of color who's a senior executive and put it all on them. They're hoping that person will solve the problem for that agency,
which is frankly stupid and insulting.
It's insulting and it's stupid. And I've got friends who I've worked with at different agency, whether it be Ketchum or again Edelman or the MSL group, and they are now heads of the DEI, but it's just them, and they're struggling because they don't have a team, they don't have the budget behind to do anything really significant. But hey, guess what? That agency can say, we've got an EVP who's a DEI person,
right.
DEI. So, yeah.
Which basically ends up being the token fill in your ethnic background person, which is ridiculous, right?
It is ridiculous. But I think they are making a step on the right direction. I know, just doing Hispanic PR for the last 25 years in my career, I remember there was a time when, you remember, I don't know how long you've been doing PR, but there was a time when we would be developing new business decks, and online, like social media was the afterthought, and how we would, at the end of our campaign presentation, we go, there'd be one slide that would say, oh, and we can also do, social media for you. And now how funny how social media is driving the entire campaign for the most part when it comes to the work we're doing in public relations. And so same thing has happened with multicultural PR. I've done, major new business presentations for PepsiCo, McDonald's, Nestle, Coca-Cola, where they kind of trot me out. The agency would trot me out to the dog and pony show. I would sit there through a whole hour-long presentation. I would have one slide where I would be able to talk about, oh, and we'll also be able to do for you some Spanish language outreach. And it was just like that one little slide. And with Latinos contributing, again, more than like $2.8 trillion to our country's GDP, exceeding like 50% of the country's growth. That is unheard of. And so, I mean, it's just ridiculous that we are not putting more weight and value behind, and dollars behind efforts to reach Spanish-speaking and even bicultural, bilingual individuals in this country.
Well, you just mentioned it in passing there, and I want to put a point on this. Growth markets, right? These communities, right? No matter who DEI community, let's just put it under the big umbrella of DEI communities. They are growth markets.
Yeah.
They are opportunity markets. And businesses that are smart enough to tap into the true spirit of what you're talking about, DEI, set themselves up to do far better than those who just want to peddle the same.
You look at McDonald's and Coca-Colas of the world and PepsiCo, they've been doing this multicultural PR and marketing for years. McDonald's was one of the pioneers. Disney, they understand, and they're global brands because they get it, right? And so following their models and understanding that how they recognized early on who were going to be the new buyers of their brands, and realizing that they needed to create programs, marketing initiatives that were going to uplift and connect to that community, was so smart and so visionary that it's, again, laughable when you see a brand not doing it, or they think, well, that's not really my audience, because they don't think we have the money to be able to afford the car or the perfume or the clothing line. And it's just, if you look at, look at Bad Bunny this year and how he's dominated all of the music award shows, and how, Latino fashion designers are really at the forefront in the fashion and music scene. And just, you can go on looking at the trends that are being set by this Latino culture. And it was the same way back in the 80s with Black culture, I think. Black culture was really influencing mainstream culture. I think today it's the same, but add in the Latino culture with that. And you may call it urban, but it goes beyond urban marketing. It is, now in mid-America. And organizations like Big Brothers Big Sisters are recognizing. I was flown out to Georgia to counsel Big Brothers Big Sister chapters in Georgia who saw a flip. Most of their littles, the kids who were in the program, used to be all African American. Today, the majority of the kids in their program are Latino. Well, guess what? The staff of Big Brothers Big Sisters, the mentors, the bigs, they were all white or Black. They had no idea how to deal with this changing demographic. They didn't understand the cultural nuances of the community. And so it's important that as an organization, whether you're a nonprofit or a major brand, you identify consultants that'll help you and guide you along the pathway, so you're not tripping over your own feet, so to speak.
So what is your advice to organizations who either want to speak to these DEI audiences or aren't yet speaking to them, but there's an opportunity for them to speak to them? And I guess let me take that back, because I think everybody's got an opportunity, but let's just take the question as it's posed.
My recommendation is to talk to experts. There's enough experts out there like myself, who can be and would be willing to sit down, listen to where you're at as an organization, determine the opportunities, look at your weaknesses internally in terms of what you need to be able to, start doing the outreach needed. But I think for a lot of companies, it's daunting because in their minds, oh, I don't have anyone who speaks Spanish, right? They're thinking, oh no, I can't do that. Well, if you look in terms of language in this country, second, third generation Latinos who are outpacing the immigrants, even though we're seeing a lot of the news about the border crossings right now. But immigration in itself had started to slow down here in the United States. The growth of the Hispanic market was coming from our parents who were having babies and their babies. So a second, third, fourth generation, and all of them are speaking English. I'm when I wake up, I'm watching CNN and I'm reading the LA Times. I'm not going to Univision and Telemundo, although here in Los Angeles and New York and Miami, if you look at the number one 6 p.m. primetime broadcast news show, it is Univision that has the highest audience numbers. It's not ABC, it's not NBC, it's Univision. If you look at the numbers for morning drive time radio shows, it's Spanish language that has the largest audience numbers, not English language radio. So and those are major markets: LA, New York, Miami, Chicago. So if you are doing business in any of these markets and not identifying that as a potential, like miss, then that CEO needs to find another chief marketing officer or another, you need to get another job, because I'm sorry to say, but it's understanding that language is just one part of the mix. It's understanding the culture. I always let people know I am bicultural, meaning I live, breathe, smell, and eat every day, because where I live and how I was raised, the Latino culture, right? There's value to that. And that insight that I have as a marketer for a brand is invaluable. And it's being able to offer that counsel to organizations that are kind of thinking about it. There's enough of us out there, and there's enough business out there that I am happy if anyone else to reach out to me. And I'm not the person for them. I'm the first one. I will find someone for you who I think would be a great connection for you to meet and talk about doing some multicultural work.
Well, Stephen, you do great work in this area, obviously, and I think we hit it on the head here, saying that it's not just a moral imperative, DEI, not just a moral imperative, but really a business imperative for those people and those brands and those organizations who want to reach out and broaden their audience and just do a better job all the way around. So thank you for your work in this area. And I really want to continue the conversation offline. We are, however, going to segue into the rapid fire question portion of our podcast. Here it comes. I know you want this bad. I know.
Bring
But
it, bring it.
Right. This is where we steal a page from inside the actor studio. We ask our guests a series of rapid fire questions meant to elicit a simple answer, maybe a laugh or two. Stephen, I know we're going to get some good ones from you. So here we go. Rapid fire question number one. What is your favorite news source?
CNN.
Any particular show or time of
I
day?
watch it
or
all
just
day long. If I wasn't on this interview, it would just be playing in my office. I don't turn it off. Yeah, but, my husband's like, when? Like he cannot stand listening to the news. He gets so frustrated hearing, particularly because that's all about politics in DC, and he hates everything around politics in DC. And so yeah, he'd rather watch his British murder mysteries than CNN.
Well, yeah, but see, every relationship has to have balance.
It
really does.
That's
All
it.
right. Rapid fire question number two. What is your favorite social media platform?
Instagram. I find myself now, I would say 80% of the time on Instagram. I'm not a TikToker. LinkedIn is professional, and Facebook, it just burns me out during the whole election cycle. I have more fun on Instagram. It's more creative, more visual.
Definitely agree. Rapid fire question number three. Coffee or alcohol? Or substitute your favorite?
Or alcohol. I was going to say coffee or tea. Ooh, I would say coffee with Kahlua. Let's mix the both. Nice.
There you go. Rapid fire question number four. What is your favorite on the run food?
It's got to be burritos here in LA. You're running, you go through a drive-through, get a carne asada burrito with rice and beans and some good salsa, and you just continue driving, holding on to that flour tortilla and warmth and goodness.
Oh my goodness, I am hungry now. Rapid fire question number five, Stephen. What do you want to be after you finish this career?
I want to be rich and famous. I want to be yeah.
You already must be famous. I mean, come on.
I want to be happy. I want to be happy.
That is the best goal of them all. Well, Stephen, this has been a great conversation. Please let people know how they can find you online.
Yeah, find me on my website, www.ChavezPR.com. You can email me at Stephen with the PH, Stephen, STEPHEN @ChavezPR.com. You can then find me on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Stephen Chavez PR.
Wonderful. Thanks again, Stephen. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Please remember to subscribe to the show. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at the PR Podcast, and send us a question or a comment. Our intro is by Christopher Apple. You can find him and his fantastic photography on Instagram at Christopher_APPOLDT. Check him out there and hire him for all your photography needs. You can find me online at Jody Fisher on all the socials and on the web at jodyfisherpr.com. We'll see you next time on the PR Podcast.